Hello everyone. I have been talking with a friend about speedrunning this game. It's a very unknown Super Nintendo puzzle platformer called Troddlers, and I wanted to give him the information about the controls because there's some things that you wouldn't be readily apparent when playing the game, and you don't have the manual unless you look it up online somewhere. So I wanted to detail all the functions that you have available in the game when you're playing it. And I thought this would be a fantastic opportunity to shed some light on this really unknown gem. And it's a fantastic little game. There's quite a lot of levels, and there's also a two-player mode, as you can see here. But a lot of people are going to be reminded, when I start playing this game, they're going to be reminded instantly of Lemmings. And Lemmings was notorious when it first came out, was notorious for how brutal it was and how unforgiving the gameplay was. And a lot of that was just due to the level design, but some of it was due to the controls. And in my opinion, this game has really successfully fixed a lot of the problems Lemmings has. This is a very well knit together game. The developers obviously knew what they wanted. They knew how their game would control. They knew how to build tools that would make sense to the player around the game and would get around any unfairness that the game might have as a result of its design. And so I'm going to go over the structure of the game for a moment, and then I'm going to jump right into the controls, and that will show you what I mean. So there are 4 modes. Solo is the single player. There are 100 stages. Team, I believe there's about 50-60 levels in that, and that's you cooperate toward the same goal. War is you win if you either kill your opponent or achieve the stated goal of the mission before they do. And training is just a simple 10 mission warm-up that gives you the rules. So let's jump straight into a stage. I'm going to jump into the first stage because it's a very safe environment to show you how to move around. So in Troddlers, first of all, you get a mission description here. You get the goal under the level name, then you get how many regular Troddlers and how many zombie Troddlers are in the stage. So we have 10 regular ones and no zombies for the first stage. Pretty simple. Only have to rescue 3 of them. So the goal of the mission is to get the Troddlers from this entrance door down here up to the exit. And you have 3 face buttons to play with. The A button is what you use to jump, and you can normally only jump 1 tile. You can jump 2 in certain conditions, and this only situation where you can do that is if you have 2 steps in front of you here. If you're pushing against this block as you jump up, you'll reach the top block. Otherwise, you can't ever jump 2 tiles. There's also a really interesting feature here that you don't see in too many games. If I have a 1-tile corridor like this, you might say, oh, it's impossible to jump out of here, or you'll have to time it very precisely, but that's not true in this game. They planned ahead for this. If you hold jump, I'm holding A right now, and then you move out of the corridor here, you always get a jump. This does not work. Make sure I'm not killing any of them when I do this. This does not work if I'm holding A right now. If I move out into the open like this, I don't immediately get a jump. I will get a jump eventually, but I think what is triggering the fact that I'm jumping when I leave this 1-tile gap is the fact that there's no ground underneath me. Anyway, you get jump buffering like that. That's really convenient, super helpful for this game. You use it surprisingly often. Then you have damage boost in midair. There are damage sources in the game. There aren't any in this stage, but if you were to take damage during a jump, then if you're still holding jump, once the damage stun is over, you'll jump again most of the time. There's some finickiness about that. It doesn't seem programmed terribly well, but there is a level built around it. So it's obvious that the developers knew it was there. They actually built a level where you have to do that. And it's something you can really easily run into in casual play. You're often holding A to extend the height of a jump, and if you take damage in the middle of the jump, then if you're still holding A, you're obviously going to get that sometimes, and it's noticeable. So the most important button in the game is B, and this is what you place blocks with. You can see I'm doing it pretty quickly here. So the sequence of inputs for putting down a block is to start holding B, press a direction, hold a direction, and then let go of B. And this takes a bit to get used to. It seems very counterintuitive at start. It seems like it takes some getting used to. It becomes natural after a while, but it takes some getting used to. But it is a very smart system. And on the right side, you can see the blocks being taken away from that tube. That's your inventory. You get 15 spaces to work with, and it's a first in, first out system. So any blocks I'm picking up go on the top of the stack, any blocks I'm placing come out the bottom. So you have to think about block order in a level with multiple types of blocks, and there are plenty of them. And then if you have a full, I can't demonstrate it, I guess I could. If I put down all my blocks, which is going to take some doing because I got so many. Alright, let's just lock. Oh, I don't want them to do that. I'm going to succeed at the mission now. Alright, well, let's just let the mission succeed, and I'll go on to the next mission, which might have a different block setup. So what I want to demonstrate here is when the block tube is empty or full. Okay, this will be excellent because there's tons of space out in the middle of the stage. When the block tube is empty or full, right now it's full, if I were to try to pick up another block, I would enter a stunned state. And the same thing is true if I spend all my blocks and then try to keep spending. Okay, now if I try to place a block, you see I go into this empty my pockets to show I have nothing sort of move, and you can't cancel that. There's nothing you can do to get out of that, I think. Did I just... No, okay, there's no way to get out of that stun, which is kind of inconvenient. That will also happen if you have a full tube and you try to pick up a 16th block. So there's also a limit to how far you can reach, of course. So if you're standing on... if you're on the grid, if your character is centered on a space on the grid, you can reach the 8 spaces around you. And if you're on if you're between 2 spaces on the grid like this, you can reach 2 additional spaces. So you can reach out to the sides like this in a rectangle of 4 by 3. And it's kind of interesting because when you press up or down here, it's going to base which of the pairs of tiles above and below you on which way you're facing. So if you were facing left, then pressing up now will make me target this space as opposed to this space. If I were facing right, then I press up, it targets this space. So if you want to turn around, and if I want to target the space above and to my left and a half block, I would have to press left and roll to up, like this. Which, that's another thing to get used to after you get used to the basic controls. And if you, this is kind of cool. Once you've been holding B and you start targeting, you are frozen until you let go of the directional pad and repress. So, I'm holding left right now, and even though I'm rolling around, okay, I guess, but it went neutral for there for a moment, I think. You have to go back to neutral on the directional pad and not press any buttons to move again. This means that you can chain from a standing state like this. If I do a block here, and I'm still holding a direction, I can just roll to up and tap to get another block. And I can roll to right and tap to get another block. I moved a little bit because I think I went to neutral. But the idea is, if you're still pressing on the directional pad, oh man. So it turns out a Buffalo controller is better than a SNES pad for this, because I was doing routing on emulator, and that's actually better than this. You're more stationary, so it means you can do a lot of manipulation of your surroundings without moving a whole lot, which is useful for some of the routing I've been doing. Placement of a block is instantaneous. As soon as the block appears, as soon as you let go of the B button, the next frame the block exists. Whereas when you pick up a block, it takes a fraction of a second to disappear. So if I take the block underneath me, I still have a window to jump right after I take it. So you can see if I take it, I take a moment to drop. Whereas if I place a block, I immediately can't walk through it. I'm going through a list of notes here, so I'm having to look at them to think about what... I didn't rehearse this or script it strictly, so I'm just kind of loose improvising each point. So putting a block on a Troddler crushes them. That was not a good example. Okay, I just killed one of the Troddlers. Also, taking it away when they're climbing on it makes them fall to their death. Or it takes about 4 or 5 blocks to for them to die to fall damage. Otherwise, they're fine. And how Troddlers move when they're falling is also interesting. Oh, you know what? I'm stuck on the bottom of the stage now because I can't get those blocks back. So anyway, if you drop from the top like this, you see he keeps going left. If I drop from that side, there's some rules to like what side the block what side of the block the Troddler is climbing on when you let it go, when you erase the block, determines based on some simple rules which way they will start walking when they land. And also, okay, this is a really good example of what this game does for convenience. I said you can pick up a block and immediately jump. Well, there's a 1-button shortcut for that. X is a button people won't usually press too much when they're playing this game, and it does nothing if you're on hard terrain. So if you press X, it instantly targets whatever's below you and picks it up and jumps in the same motion. It's a macro. So this is really smart, and it means climbing, making like a zigzag stairs. Here, I'll restart the level so you can see what I mean. But when you're climbing, you're often going to make a zigzag set of stairs or one long staircase in one direction. So you could, if you're doing like this is basic climbing. I'm pressing X to destroy the block underneath me each time. So this is pretty simple climbing, very easy to do once you get the hang of it. So that's really convenient, and that is made possible largely with the X button. You have to do a lot less button pressing. It also will target, like if I'm way over here, it'll favor whichever one, like I'm pressing X now, it'll favor whichever direction I'm facing. Also, once you press X, you're committed. There's no way to cancel it. But if I press X now, it'll target, even though I was facing left still, it'll target something if it's under me, even if I'm not facing in that direction. And if you have a roof under you, or if you have a roof over you, the X button cancels your jump completely. You can't hold it out of a corridor like I did with the A button. So the X button is not as useful for jumping in versatile ways. So if there was a block here and no block here, and I press X, I'll just drop. If I press this, I can still jump if I do it with B. So that's a weakness of the X button. Okay, mission goals. There are 5 kinds of mission goals, and I'm not going to go over them in too much depth. There's rescuing Troddlers, and when you're rescuing them, exit's orientation matters. So if I let this guy walk up here, and he's going to walk back around now, and he's coming at the exit from the wrong direction. The floor of the exit is on the bottom of that square, so he's not going to go into the exit. But if I give him a way in, if I let him walk, see he just went in there, he has to walk oriented correctly with the exit to go in. So the second type of goal is terminating zombie Troddlers. They're the gray ones. You don't see them yet. They take about 20-30 levels to show up, I think. And the zombie Troddlers are like antimatter with the regular Troddlers. If they touch each other, they both die instantly. Some of the zombies are harmless. Some of them can hurt you. See the red bar at the bottom left there? That can deplete to 0, and if that depletes, you die. So lethal zombies will hurt you, and the level will tell you if they're lethal. Sometimes you have to terminate a certain number of them. You can do this in any way you want. So you could do like I did earlier with the Troddlers by placing a block over them. You can make them blow up mines. You can squash them with a flip block. There's lots of ways. You can have them killed by a passing flame. The rule with that, besides the fact that you have to terminate enough foes to finish the mission, is that if too many foes get into the exit, then you fail the mission. If there aren't enough left that you can kill the required number, then you fail the mission. And this is actually kind of cool because the game will auto-fail you if there aren't enough resources in the stage to fail the mission and force you to restart. It'll instantly trip you. So if I killed enough Troddlers that there aren't enough remaining to finish the mission, I think I need 5 for this. So now I don't, oh, I saved one, so I only need 4 more. Okay, now that there aren't enough, it will say, too many men perish, take better care of them. So there's a mission failure screen for each type of failure. So if there's not enough zombies left to make red gems, then I would fail based on that. And there are 3 types of gems. There's red, green, and blue. Some of them spawned in the stage already. And if you need to make them, then you always need to drop a boulder on something. Red gems are made by dropping a boulder on either zombies or regular Troddlers. Green gems are made by dropping one boulder on another boulder, and blue gems are made by dropping a boulder on a large enemy. There are 3 kinds of large enemy. There's birds, flames, and spinners. And I won't go into detail on those. When you find them, you'll discover how they behave. And they're all pretty annoying. The birds are by far the worst. So there's ways to make gems. Gems will spawn. Let me get back into the mission. So if I drop a rock on another rock, it will spawn 4 gems if it can, 4 green gems. So if this top block right here is a boulder, and I drop another boulder on it, it will make gems in a pattern of 4 blocks like this. All of these that I just made will be gems. But if there's a wall over here, then it will only make 3 gems. It'll make as many as it can make, but it won't overlap anything. Anything except the Troddler can block gems being made. I mentioned the mission auto-aborting. You've seen me a couple times now, I think, abort a mission manually. If you pause by pressing start and then hold select for a few seconds, it will abort the mission. So it's a fail-safe. There's ways to get stuck in this game, so that's there so you don't have to let the level time out. It's an anti-soft lock. Very, very wise feature for things to have. You can start to see how clever this game is and how it... And I wish I could show you some later levels. Maybe I will. I have to think of what level I want to show you that I didn't really prepare. But you can see how versatile the controls are and how wise they were in understanding how their system works and building the control scheme around it in a very clever way. There's three example types of blocks that I would like to show you. Let me see if I can find... So there's ice blocks, boulders, and landmines that I want to mention, because these kind of have some rules that are not super clear when you first see the block. Ice blocks are relatively simple, boulders are a little more complicated, and then landmines are simple as well, but let me just go over them real quick. So let's go over ice first. Cold Cruise, this is level. All the level passwords are the level's name without the vowels. So Cold Cruise. I have to rescue 18 of 24. This level is almost entirely ice blocks, so you run into a problem of having too many blocks in your inventory here. Whoop. So Troddlers cannot climb ice blocks, so they will not be able to get back up. As soon as see the Troddlers that are climbing up from down there, they're slipping on the ice block that I'm standing on right now, and they can't get up to me. So because Troddlers can never climb ice blocks, let me go over their behavior for a moment, because this is actually kind of important. Ice blocks show up a lot. If a Troddler is coming from the side, they'll just turn around. So let's see. Well, I'm not going to bother showing it, but also this is going to be a nuisance. Getting back up here. If the Troddler is walking on top of it, if it got on top of it somehow and it walks over the side, it'll try to climb down and fall down this edge. And if they try to climb up an edge like this, then they'll fall. If they're climbing across the ceiling, like if a Troddler came up across the ceiling to the right here, as soon as it hits the ice block, it'll slip and fall. So really common to have Troddlers dying to fall damage from these. Ice blocks can be very useful, but they're also really frustrating sometimes to work with. Boulders, let me see if I can find a level for that. So ice blocks, turns out there's a lot of cool strategies in the speedrun with ice blocks. Some shortcuts in some places, because you can have the Troddlers traverse very quickly by falling rather than climbing down a wall. Boulder. This will be a simple one. New thing. This is the first level the game introduces boulders and pushing them onto things. And there are no Troddlers in this, it's just make some green gems, and there's no green gems. So we have to push boulders onto other boulders. And this is a pretty simple level. There's not a whole lot in your way from getting this level solved. So here you can see the gem spawn pattern when I finally crush something. So there's the gems. There's some more gems, you get the idea. So boulders actually interact with Troddlers in a way similar to ice cubes, but not quite all the way the same. So if a Troddler is walking up this wall and it runs into the boulder, it will fall. However, if the Troddler is walking along this ceiling to the left of me here and moves right and hits this boulder, it'll turn around on the ceiling. So if a Troddler walks across the top of a boulder, they'll fall. If a Troddler walks into the side of a boulder, like runs into the boulder directly, they'll turn around whichever way they go. And this is really interesting. Like if a Troddler, they're never allowed to walk on boulders ever. I don't know why they did this, but this is how they did it. So if a Troddler was walking up this wall and it fell, even though I don't think this is enough damage to cause them to die to fall damage, because it landed on a boulder and they're never allowed to walk on this boulder, they'll die anyway. If a Troddler ever lands on the top of a boulder, they'll die. If you can crush things, aside from other boulders, you can crush big enemies and Troddlers by pushing the rock over them like this. So if a Troddler is walking to the right towards me, I can push the boulder onto it to the left, and that counts as crushing it. I don't have to drop it on it. Same thing with large enemies. You can push boulders into them. It's a little more difficult though. And finally, landmines, and I have a level in mind for this. So landmines are really picky. Actually, I'm going to change which level I want to show, because this one actually exploits the level heavily with landmines. So landmines, let's see, what was it called? Wait for it. So in this level, you're supposed to wait. You're supposed to wait for about 3 minutes for the game to give you some more blocks, because there's items that will drop periodically. You already saw some fruit appear. There's all kinds of different items. There's clocks. There's also a block. Pause the game for a moment so I can execute this level correctly. There's a block that will drop in 3 minutes into this level that gives you 5 additional regular blocks. You can see I only have landmines in my inventory right now. There's 3 ice blocks near the top of the screen. So if a Troddler tries to climb a landmine in any way, they will die. The landmine will explode, destroy everything one tile away from it, and it can destroy anything in the game except for hard terrain like the stuff I'm standing on right now. It can destroy enemies. It can destroy entrances and exits. You can actually destroy the exit to the stage with these landmines. But the explosion will not hurt you, and it will not kill other Troddlers. If a Troddler steps on a landmine, the only Troddler that dies directly to that explosion is the Troddler that touched it. So let me grab the ice blocks on the top of the screen. This is how I do this stage currently in the speedrun. So in this stage, you only have 3 ice blocks. This will be a really good illustration of ice blocks too. So I'm going to grab everything and leave a whole bunch of landmines out in the middle of the stage. And I'm going to turn, see that left group is now going to go right. So they'll both be going right, which is handy for this stage. Oh. So normally, let me pause the game and explain this. Normally, I would not have enough ice blocks to do this. You see, as they approach that ice blocks on the ceiling, they're going to fall off it and fall onto the mine, which you would expect to explode, but it turns out it wouldn't explode normally until the Troddler picks himself up and starts walking, but it turns out this is just short enough of a time that the Troddler spends on walking on the mine. I guess the game is detecting only where they're about to step, so they're immediately stepping onto the ice block, and the game allows this. So that's how ice blocks work. Mines I didn't really get to show there, but you get the idea. Neat trick about killing zombies with mines. Actually, this is a perfect stage to illustrate what mines can do when they blow up. So I have to get through this section of rocks below me here, and I'm supposed to have that mine as well. So I have to blow my way up through there. So these Troddlers can blow up the rocks using these mines, and that's what you're supposed to do here. So also, see if I let the Troddlers drop by putting an ice block here, because they're falling onto a rock, even though they're falling such a short distance, they die instantly. And I failed the mission because I lost too many. But there's a good illustration of everything I wanted to explain. Should whet your appetite enough to make you want to play this game. If you didn't notice, it also has amazing music. I didn't get to show. I don't think I got to show all the tunes, but there's about 4 or 5 basic level tunes, and they're all really good. So give this game a shot. If you liked Lemmings, you'll really adore this game. This, in my opinion, patches up all the flaws that Lemmings suffers from, and expands on it. Here's this level is interesting. This is themed around having too many blocks. You actually have to leave a trail of blocks behind you, so that you have room in your inventory to pick up more. But just, yeah, absolutely give this game a shot. If you love puzzle platformers, this game, I only showed a couple levels, so don't feel like I spoiled anything. Most levels I showed were super early, just kind of warming you up kind of levels. And there's, like I said, there's 100 solo missions in this. 100 of the levels that you've seen. And some of them are pretty difficult. Some of them are pretty frustrating at times. Like, I remembered this game not very fondly from when I was a kid, and I guess I kind of blocked it out or something, because I didn't remember it again until recently. I didn't remember that I even had the game. And I was thinking about speedrunning a new game, and I, for some reason, thought of this game suddenly, and when I came back to it, I was surprised at how good it was. I expected the game to be kind of sloppy, frustrating. This game is superbly designed. This is one of the best escort the helpless creatures to the exit type of games I've ever seen. And there's a lot of variety in the stages. So thanks for watching. Hope you found this video helpful, and see you in the next video.